What's the best job for a lazy person? Security guard. Source. Been on Reddit the whole shift. Edit. Now on my next night shift and so many notifications and even 2 goals. Just to answer a few questions. It's a shipyard facility. During the day it's checking out bags and cars coming in and out. Giving temporary passes and few phone calls. Night shift. What can I say? Reddit. Cable TV or Heroes 3 on my shitty old laptop. Work schedule. Day shift. Night shift then 2 days off. Back in college. I was a computer lab monitor. I just had to sit in the lab. And once every hour count the number of people there. If I was opening or closing the lab. There was about 15 minutes of work for that. But otherwise I could just surf the web or do my homework. I worked as a security guard for a trucking company on the weekends. The rest of the company conveniently didn't work weekends, so I had the whole place to myself. I worked 12 hours days and walked around a small wing of the property every hour and documented anything that was out of the ordinary. Almost nothing was ever out of the ordinary. Other than that I didn't do anything. It was actually really boring because the guardhouse was outside of the Wi-Fi area, so I blew through my phone data really fast. To cure the boredom and ease my phone bill, I bought a portable DVD player and watched every DVD I had. I used to go to the factory where they make giant rotating machinery for power plant generators. It would take a week or more to machine these giant discs, and the machinist just sat there watching this giant computer operated machine do all the work. If an error popped up, the machine would stop, sound an alarm on the computer, and the machinist would pick up the phone and call an engineer to come fix it. Also, they didn't do any of the removal or setup. That was done by a team of engineers and transport folks. $30 HR. The person that sit on a chair in the museum. They just sit there in one of the most quiet places I visit. And when a person stands too close to one end artwork, they just cough a little and tell you to step back. Lifeguard at the Olympics. Find a remote data entry job and outsource it to someone who will do it for cheaper. Let them do your job and just collect the difference. A lot of IT related office jobs at big companies involve a lot of downtime for one reason or another. Where you're just sitting around waiting for work to come in. Just be careful what you wish for. I did a 6-month work placement at a place doing QC on medical data entry. It was as riveting as it sounds, and due to poor management there were massive stretches of time, like more than a solid week, where there was nothing for us to do. We were literally begging for work because we were so f***ing bored. If someone had asked me to start hoovering the carpets, I would have jumped at the chance. Creative IT jobs like the video games and special effects industries are major exceptions. Toll booth worker. Size admin. I hate my life. I've automated 85% of my job. I'd be shocked if I worked more than 4 hours on an average week. It sounds great, but FCK, it's boring sitting here surfing tomorrow's Reddit today. Copy editor. You can pretty much work out of your own home and be a professional grammar Nazi. Pay is meh, but it's really not bad once you build up a client base, since you can literally sit on your ass for hours if your grasp on the language is strong. Edit. I should probably clarify. I do this part-time after I get home from my main office job. I consider it lazy because I can sit in my own home office and dedicate what time I wish to it. And it requires no specialized equipment, besides a laptop. It ain't a game tester. People think it's a fun and easy job, but tracking down the precise instant a bug happens under what conditions is a painstaking, tedious and time-consuming task. Hurricane debris cleanup crew safety monitor. This won't apply to you unless you live in a place where you are hit by hurricanes at least once a year and don't mind working 12 hours days, 7 days a week. I promise you that 10 of those 12 hours per day will be spent sitting there, doing nothing. Playing games on your phone if the battery lasts long enough. I switched to crossword puzzles to try and save my battery. Keep in mind this job only exists immediately after a hurricane hits and then for about 4-5 months afterwards, depending on the strength of the hurricane. You will get time and a half on the final 44 hours of the week. So you essentially get paid for the work of someone who has 2 decent entry-level jobs without actually performing anywhere near that amount of work. Cigarette testing. I couldn't imagine sitting at a table for 8 hours with a guy going full Hank Hill handing me rolled chemicals. Security guard. I just quit my job because it was too boring for me. But it paid 70 grand a year and had full benefits, and I spent 7 out of 8 hours a day on Reddit. Do tech support for a medical device company that makes a good product. Truck driving. And not in a bad way. I drove a semi for a few years after the military, and it is by far the best job for low energy introverts. You get paid to do nothing other than stare out a window and listen to music, podcasts, radio. You have to get out every now and then for work. But you won't be doing any back-breaking work, and it won't be longer than 10-15 minutes at most. Best job if you like to be alone and not really have to do anything. Plus it pays really well. Writing, producing the final season of Game of Thrones. Security guard on night shifts. Cinema projectionist. Alert orders for military. Just chill in a bunker all weekend. And play video games and eat and work out. Then get a 5-day weekend. Get paid regardless because salary pay. I own a out-of-home phone repair business. I repair maybe 2-3 phones a day. Takes roughly about 30 minutes each. Then I either play games or relax in bed the rest of the day. And that keeps me going well. My job. I make the ballistic fiber that goes in bulletproof vests. I basically just watch movies and play on my phone all day long while the machine runs. As long as everything goes smoothly, I have around 5 minutes of work to do every hour and a half whenever the machines is ready to run new packages. And I'm on break half of the day too, because we do 1 hour on the floor. Then swap out with our relief for an hour. So every other hour you're on break for an hour. And I have a 2-hour lunch. I make $30, $23 an hour, and all the overtime I want. It depends on what kind of lazy you are. Work hard 1-2 decades and chill for the rest of your life lazy. Or wake up at 11 AM and go to work at 2 PM kind of lazy. Someone in my family works as an anesthesiologist and another as a neurophysiologist. Both work literally 10-15 hours a week for $150 K, $225K a year. They worked hard through their education and got lucky at parts. But the payoff is being lazy, retirement capable by age 40 if you're willing to retire to a cheaper country. Or 60 if you invest, save well, and want to stay in the States. Alternatively, some of my laziest friends, gamers, potheads, work remote as software engineers, web engineers. This work is task-based and relatively independent, depending what company you work for. And if you seek out projects for startups, small growing companies, you also get to try your luck at making it big with pieces of equity here and there. Software developer. Because the lazy developer finds the easiest way of doing something. Corporate job. They typically give you work they think will take a week. It does. You're just slowly trotting through it in between useless meetings and Facebook. I'm currently working as a companion for rich old folks with early stage dementia. Their kids feel guilty for not spending time with them, so they pay me too much to go to the old folks home every day, hang out, drive their fancy cars, and go out for lunch. Most don't wake up till after midday, so I do whatever I want all morning. My old guy now likes to go to this expensive restaurant every day for lunch, full on 3 courses with a bottle of wine, which to be honest has become a bit much for me. Every few days I send the kids a happy smiley pic of the old timer having a good time, and they get the warm fuzzies. I'll drive the Jag or Rolls. Get them a paper, but don't do any personal care at all. It's a sweet gig. Bowling alley shoe rental person. Mattress tester. I love that you asked what job is for lazy people rather than go find it. True laziness. I'm sure this will likely be lost in the other awesome jobs. But I once had a job that required maybe 10 minutes of work a day. Essentially, it was my job to rent people mobility scooters. I'd sit in a small room surrounded by different colored scooters and I'd just read or watch movies with my feet up because we had maybe 2-4 customers a day. If a person came in for a scooter, I'd ask for their name and postcode, write it down on a piece of paper and give them the keys. When they came back I would, usually an hour or two later, I'd charge the scooter by just plugging it in. That's all. The entire job. The work really slowed when the local government started charging for the formerly free service. Then I'd maybe see 3 people a week. And they paid me $8 per hour. In college, I was the substitute proctor for a standardized test company. They would hold practice exams. And I would just say start, set an alarm, and say end when it was done. That was basically it. Didn't have to look for people cheating. Because if you're paying $1,000 to take a class and you cheat on the practice exam, then that's on you. Easiest beer money in the world. And I got to do work or read during it. One time I had a sweet gig as an overnight caregiver for a sweet old lady neighbor of my mom's friend. She lives alone. Is around 90. Super mentally and physically with it. She just gets scared at night and likes the company. I would go over at around 8 PM. Watch Dancing with the Stars or whatever with her. Discuss current events. And would usually end up going to bed before her at around 11. She didn't mind as long as I was in the house. I would wake up and have breakfast with her. Then leave around 7 or 8 the next morning. She paid $100 night. I did this for a while when I was preparing for my NCLEX and for a bit after I passed. I had to leave because I got a job as a camp nurse. And then I ended up moving and getting a real job, so I didn't try to get that job back. I hope she's still alive and that someone else is filling in as well as I did. There were some pretty big, lazy shoes to fill. Not sure if it qualifies, but I used to oversee gas pressure on an outlet on an oil rig. I'd just sit there for 12 each day for up to 4 weeks at a time. Nothing ever happened, and if it did there wouldn't be much time to act accordingly. I'd just be the first to know that we would all die very soon. Working at a visitor's center along our interstate. My buddy works at one along I-15 and he just sits in a chair and points things out on a map to people all day. He basically is on one long break. He steps out back whenever no one is around and talks his e-pen. So basically he sits in an air-conditioned little room and tells people where cool spots are and fun things to do on their trip. Plus you get to meet all sorts of interesting and creepy people. All while being baked off his ass. I saw a post earlier about NASA paying $18,000 for 70 days laying in a bed. Night watchman at the city cemetery. Member of the local assembly in Northern Ireland. It's government positions which have been on a holiday for almost 3 years full pay. I'm a videographer. Most of my work is recording depositions. I show up a half hour early. Set up. Hit record when they want to go on the record. Then I DCK around on Reddit till they're done. I'm at one now. What are some good websites to use to apply for these kinds of jobs though? I never know where to look. Ice packing. I sit at home, playing video games with an ice cube maker next to me, and whenever the next batch comes through I put it in a cooler box and take it all to the store at the end of the day. The job is you have to hold up this sign and you have to make sure it points in the right direction. Now, does that sound like something you can do? Double quote. Sounds like something a lamppost could do. Double quote. Flight of the Conchords. Lifeguard at a retirement complex. I did this every summer throughout high school and university. And never once did I have to intervene or do anything. My regular clientele consisted of 4 old ladies who would meet each morning to chat and sunbathe. And one very fit old dude who would swim laps at the end of the day. I suppose it would have been more work if any emergencies had actually happened though. Airline pilot. I take off and literally go to the back. Eat a steak and then go to sleep. Then come up later and sit there and read a book. Then land and go eat at some restaurant in Europe. Working with severe narcoleptics. Early in my career I was a county adult probation officer. I got assigned to a town of 3,000 people. The local justice court wanted their own PO assigned and the judge wanted me to live in the town. It was slow to say the least, but my last year was almost work free. The average PO has a caseload of 60-80 probationers. I had 2 and I'd see them once a month. With seeing them in office. A once a month home visit. Documenting my efforts. And court. I worked maybe 5 hours per month. My boss said I could stay home if I wanted. But I had to have my cell on. For a year. I probably put in less than 60 hours of actual work. Stay at home dad with no kids. Whatever my boss's boss does. City work. Any city. Hide and seek $1,000 a week. My brother wants to get this job where you review YouTube content, so you sit and watch YouTube all day and then rate the producer and write a very short review that can be as short as 1 sentence. I am a very lazy person. And I work as a leasing consultant. It's fun. I basically go into people's apartments and show them to people who want to rent. I also work as a dog walker. And do personal care visits with seniors where I just chill with them. Mystery shopper. I used to work for a juvenile delinquent camp. My job was to sit in or by the cabin overnight and make sure none of the kids ran off. The job requirement consisted of radioing in once an hour, writing no issues or latrine on each kid's log sheet, and keeping yourself awake. It paid 50% more than a fast food job. And as long as you did the job you could do pretty much whatever you wanted the rest of the time. Biggest catch was there was no power and up to a half-mile hike to the cabin. I've talked about this guy before. But we have a specific security guard we've had for 13+ years now and is pretty useless. The security guard lives there and has a TV. He watches telenovelas most of the time. All he does is open the gate. And doesn't even bother to even inspect though. Since according to his logic 99% of people who can afford a car aren't bad harmful people. He doesn't ask names or house numbers. Just opens the gate whenever he sees a car. Anyone can come in if they have a car. He doesn't even inspect faces. And do you know the worst part? When moving into the perimeter, you are supplied with your own control remote. The gates are also automatic.